You'll never be mentally strong until you stop chasing approval. How much of what you do is truly yours, and how much is just an attempt to be seen? It's a confronting question because deep down, you already know the answer. Most of what drains you isn't failure. It's pretending. Pretending to be fine. Pretending to agree. Pretending you don't care what they think, when in truth, their silence still echoes louder than your own thoughts. We live chained to invisible judgments, likes, glances, small approvals that feel like oxygen. You post something, and within seconds your mood shifts depending on how the world reacts. One comment can build your confidence, another can destroy it. You start performing for invisible audiences, shaping your words, your image, even your beliefs around what will be accepted. But every time you do, you lose a piece of yourself. This need to be liked isn't harmless. It's an invisible prison. It decides who you become. It's the voice that stops you from saying what's real, from taking the risks that matter, from walking your own path without apology. You start to confuse attention with worth, silence with rejection, and approval with love. Yet all of it is smoke, a fragile illusion that disappears the moment people look away. You can't be mentally strong while your peace depends on someone else's opinion. True strength begins the moment you stop chasing validation and start standing still, unshaken, even when unseen. Because the goal was never to be liked by everyone. The goal was to be free enough to be yourself, even when no one claps for it. The hidden cost of being liked. At first, chasing approval feels harmless. You tell yourself it's just about being kind, being respectful, being someone people enjoy having around. But beneath that surface, something darker is shaping you. A quiet dependency that trades authenticity for acceptance. You start adjusting your tone, your opinions, even your dreams, to fit the invisible standards of others. The praise feels good for a moment, but it doesn't last. It never does. Every time someone validates you, your brain releases a small reward. It's chemical, a rush that feels like connection, but it's not. It's a trap. The same loop that keeps people addicted to their phones keeps them addicted to approval. You start needing it to feel enough, and when it's gone, you feel hollow, uncertain, almost lost. The world taught you to measure your worth by applause, but applause fades. Respect earned through performance is borrowed, not owned. There's a truth most people never face. Being liked can make you weaker. It makes you predictable, easy to manipulate, and constantly afraid of disappointing others. You become so busy maintaining harmony that you lose your edge, your honesty, your truth. And when you finally look in the mirror, you realize the person staring back is a collection of other people's expectations stitched together. Mental strength doesn't come from keeping everyone happy. It comes from being willing to be misunderstood, to stand alone when needed, to say no when silence would be easier. As the Stoic said, if you live for their praise, you'll die from their silence. Approval might feel safe, but it's a slow erosion of identity. The more you chase it, the less of yourself remains to be found. The origin of the wound. The need for approval doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins the first time love felt conditional. When you were a child, affection was often linked to performance and to being quiet, polite, or good. You learned early that approval was the currency of belonging. A smile meant safety. Disapproval meant rejection. And so, without realizing it, you started molding yourself into whatever shape made others comfortable. That pattern never left you. It just grew up with you. As you entered the world, that same system of reward and punishment followed you. Schools praised compliance over curiosity. Workplaces rewarded silence over truth. Social media turned validation into a marketplace where attention feels like affection and comparison feels like competition. You began chasing the illusion that if you just become perfect enough, agreeable enough, visible enough, then finally, you'll be loved without question. But the love that must be earned is not love, it's negotiation. The truth is, this hunger for approval is not weakness, it's a wound. It's what happens when your self-worth is outsourced to the opinions of others. You weren't born needing likes, compliments, or applause. You were taught that without them, you don't matter. And now you live in a world that reinforces that lie at every turn, a world that profits from your insecurity. Mental strength begins when you stop feeding that wound, when you realize that the approval you've been chasing was never about others. It was about your need to feel seen, to feel enough. But healing doesn't come from being seen. It comes from learning to see yourself without the filter of judgment, to reclaim your own validation, to rebuild the foundation of worth that no one else can touch. The moment you lose yourself, there comes a point when the weight of pretending becomes unbearable. You start to notice how often you silence yourself, how many times you hold back an opinion, a truth, a dream, just to stay accepted. You laugh at things that don't amuse you. You agree with ideas that don't align with who you are. You wear masks so often that you forget how your real face feels. That's the moment you start to lose yourself. Not all at once, but piece by piece, until you're just a reflection of what others expect. You wake up one day realizing you've built a life designed to please everyone but you. Every choice, every achievement, every smile has a hidden price. The constant fear of being rejected. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel invisible because no one truly knows you, and deep down, you know why. You never showed them who you are. You showed them what they wanted to see. This isn't living, but it's performing. The applause becomes addictive, but it never satisfies. Because every compliment that comes your way feeds the version of you that isn't real. The moment the clapping stops, you're left with silence, and that silence hurts more than any rejection. You realize that in trying to be everything for everyone, you've become nothing to yourself. There's a line that should haunt anyone who lives for approval. If everyone loves you, it's because no one really knows you. True strength demands honesty, even when it costs you comfort, even when it leaves you standing alone, because the longer you chase validation, the further you drift from authenticity. And without authenticity, there is no peace, only exhaustion dressed as acceptance. The rebellion, detaching without becoming cold. Detachment isn't about closing your heart, it's about reclaiming your mind. It's the quiet rebellion against a world that constantly demands your reaction. For too long, you've mistaken detachment for indifference, as if to stop needing approval, you must stop caring altogether. But real strength doesn't live in apathy, it lives in balance, in knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You can care deeply without being controlled. You can love without begging to be loved back. You can listen without needing agreement. Detachment means you no longer measure your worth by how others respond to you. You start living in alignment with your values, not their validation. The noise outside may still exist, but it no longer decides your direction. The Stoics called this mastery the dichotomy of control, separating what you can command from what you can't. You can't control opinions, moods, or reactions. You can only control how much power you give them. Approval is fleeting, but inner peace is permanent once you stop trading it for attention. Imagine your self-worth as a flame. Approval seekers carry it in the open, letting every gust of judgment threaten to extinguish it. The mentally strong protect it within, where no one else can touch it. Your worth is not Wi-Fi, it doesn't need to connect to others to exist. So you detach, not because you've stopped feeling, but because you've stopped surrendering. You no longer seek to be understood by everyone, because you've learned that peace doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being aligned. The day you stop chasing approval is the day you start walking freely, calm, grounded, untouchable. Building true mental strength. Mental strength isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the quiet moments when you choose integrity over approval, truth over popularity, and purpose over applause. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about developing an inner steadiness that no opinion can shake. True power begins when you can stand in a room full of noise and still hear your own voice clearly. The mentally strong don't chase validation. They build conviction. They understand that not everyone will agree, understand, or support their path. And that's fine. They've accepted that solitude isn't punishment, but a mirror. In silence, you face your real self. No filters, no performances, no audience. And that's where clarity begins to grow. Because only when you stop trying to be seen can you finally see who you are. The world tells you to put yourself out there, but strength sometimes means pulling yourself inward, refining your thoughts, rebuilding your values, and returning with intention. You learn to protect your energy as fiercely as your dreams. You begin to draw boundaries, not to keep people away, but to keep your peace intact. True resilience doesn't mean you never get hurt. It means you refuse to let pain define you. Rejection becomes feedback, not failure. Silence becomes sanctuary, not threat. When you stop reacting and start responding, you evolve from being fragile to being focused. There's a line that defines this transformation. Silence is strength when you no longer need to explain your worth. You don't need to convince, to prove, to impress. You just live aligned, grounded in who you are and what you stand for. That's the foundation of mental strength, unshakable calm in a world addicted to noise. The shift from needing approval to giving it. There comes a quiet point in your growth when you stop chasing validation and begin creating it, not for yourself but for others. The need to be seen transforms into the ability to see. You realize that the approval you once begged for was simply a reflection of your own emptiness. And now that you've filled that space with self-respect, you no longer crave applause. You start to recognize something powerful. Mentally strong people don't compete for validation. They distribute it freely because they no longer depend on it to survive. When you reach that stage, your energy changes. You stop walking into rooms trying to be liked and start walking in to add value. You start complimenting others without fear of losing your own light. You can admire someone else's strength without it threatening yours. You begin to inspire, not impress. And that subtle shift turns you into the kind of person others naturally respect. Not because you asked for it, but because you embody it. Real freedom begins when you realize that your worth has never been up for negotiation. The opinions that once controlled you lose their grip, and the silence that once terrified you becomes your ally. You move through life lighter, more centered, guided by truth rather than attention. Approval no longer drives you. Purpose does. You no longer look around for reassurance, you look within for direction. And from that stillness, you become unshakable. Because when you stop needing approval, you start living from a deeper truth, one that doesn't need to be seen to exist. When you stop needing approval, you start living by truth, and truth doesn't beg to be liked. One day you'll stop checking who saw your message, who noticed your effort, who clapped for your success. And in that silence, something unexpected will happen. Peace will take their place. The same quiet that once felt unbearable will become your home. You'll realize that the emptiness you once feared was never emptiness at all. It was space. Space for clarity, for strength, for truth to grow. You'll look back and see how much energy you wasted trying to convince people to understand you, to approve of you, to like you. And you'll smile because now you understand. You never needed their permission to become who you were meant to be. Every rejection was redirection. Every silence was protection. Every moment you stood alone was shaping the backbone you stand on now. This journey isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming whole. When your peace no longer depends on approval, life becomes lighter. You no longer need to prove your worth. You simply live it. You walk slower, speak clearer, act with purpose. You start building a life that feels true, not one that just looks acceptable. And maybe that's the real definition of strength, not the loud kind that dominates others, but the quiet kind that can't be dominated, the kind that walks away from noise, that doesn't chase, that knows when to stay still. One day you'll realize that the silence that used to scare you has become your peace, and that's when you'll know you're finally free. If this message spoke to you, don't just leave with inspiration. Leave with intention. Every view fades, every video ends, but the work you do on yourself begins after the screen goes dark. Stop waiting for permission to change. The moment you choose to silence the need for approval, you start building a strength that no one can give or take away. If you're ready to master your mind and become the version of yourself your future needs, subscribe and stay. This channel isn't about motivation that fades tomorrow. It's about transformation that lasts a lifetime. Every video here is a reminder to stay grounded, to stay disciplined, and to rise above the noise that once controlled you. So before you go, take one last breath. And remember, your worth doesn't need an audience. Your peace doesn't need validation. And your future doesn't need approval to begin. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, and walk with us, one mindset shift at a time. Because the world doesn't need another person trying to be liked. It needs more people strong enough to be real.